The US, Japan and the Philippines have agreed to boost defense cooperation following their first trilateral meeting of these national security advisors. Tokyo is reportedly preparing military aid for Manila to help secure waters between the Philippines and Taiwan. Japanese officials say they may send equipment for maritime monitoring. At today's meeting in Tokyo, White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said he discussed joint maritime activities with his Japanese and Philippine counterparts, including multilateral joint naval exercises in the Indo-Pacific. The allies' defense officials also discussed security challenges in the South China Sea, as well as perceived threats from North Korea. Analysts believe Japan is concerned that the Philippines could be a weak link in any strategy to defend Taiwan against a possible invasion by China. Earlier this year, Tokyo mentioned it would offer like-minded countries military aid that officials said would help Manila plug any defensive gaps. And for more, Will Denslow joins us live from New York. Will, the US, Japan and the Philippines agreeing to bolster defense cooperation beyond the obvious, as we've mentioned, including more drills. What does this actually entail?
Absolutely. Essentially, this is a show of strength and also a show of unity, that there is a concerted a group of allies in the Asia-Pacific region that can be seen as a formidable opposition to China, or what is perceived in Washington as Beijing's growing role and growing threat in the area. And this has been broken down. We've had a readout from the White House, really bringing us to speed with a few of the key objectives that came out of this trilateral meeting between the national security advisors. Now, these included, as you rightly mentioned, efforts to enhance trilateral defense and security capabilities. There was a mention that we could expect to see more maritime activities conducted between the three nations in the coming months. We saw a commitment from the White House that the three nations pledged more efforts to maintain free and open maritime orders. So very much they're addressing concerns, especially that Washington and its allies in the region have with regards to freedom of navigation through the South China Sea, long a sticking point between Washington and Beijing. Efforts to enhance trilateral cooperation when it comes to humanitarian relief in the region as well. And the final one, of course, are more economic partnerships between these groups as well. So very much an effort from the US to very much point itself as a key ally and a unified ally with a number of nations in the region. Of course, this comes in a busy diplomatic week for Jake Sullivan, as well as the Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Jake Sullivan saying we could expect more talks at a leaders level between the US, Japan and South Korea in the coming months as well.
You mentioned Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Now he's heading to Beijing at the end of this week. And Jake Sullivan has already downplayed expectations. He said it's unlikely to be any breakthrough in terms of bringing down tensions right now. But given that, what would be Mr. Blinken's agenda, and what can we expect despite these downplayed expectations in the days ahead?
You mentioned those comments from Jake Sullivan, quite extraordinary, really, saying that this isn't even the biggest visit for the US with regard to foreign policy this week. So really pouring a lot of cold water on what is the first high-level meeting of a US diplomat heading to China since the start of the Biden administration back in January of 2021. So really shows just how little expectation Washington is putting into this visit by Secretary of State Antony Blinken to Beijing. Of course, this comes as the US is very much ready to roll out the red carpet for Narendra Singh Modi at next week when he visits Washington for a high-level meeting, which the US is putting plenty of effort into to try and deepen relations between India and the United States. When it comes, though, to China, well, yes, you're absolutely right. We've heard from Jake Sullivan, who has really stated that the aim of this visit is to stop both sides veering into conflict. So unease, but trying to prevent relations getting any worse.
All right, thanks for that. Will Denslow reporting live to us there from New York.